Yes, hello friends and investors. Welcome back to my channel, Cebu Homes, and this is Amon Ray. And for today's episode of Home Talk, we'll be checking on the breaking news headlines in the world and especially Asia. So now we're on channelnewsasia.com, and on the headlines, in times of crisis, Bangkok is finding space to grow its own food on rooftops. Wow, that's a really innovative move for the people in Thailand. And in Singapore, the country reports 81 new COVID-19 infections, including 10 crew members who arrived on vessel. Tour champion Bernal pulls out of Criterium du Dauphin. Still in Asia, Malaysia reports 26 new COVID-19 cases, including 23 local transmissions. Indonesia reports 2,354 new coronavirus cases, 50 more deaths. For world news, returning Brits begin quarantine as second virus wave threatens Europe. In sports news, historic humiliation, Spanish media flay Barca after Bayern debacle. And other sports news, Liverpool boss Klopp named Premier League manager of the season. Still on sports, Newcastle takeover collapse as Saudi consortium decline arbitration offer. In Iran, Iran's president says UAE made huge mistake with Israel deal. And in the Philippines, the country reports 4,351 new coronavirus cases, 159 more deaths. It's getting worse in the Philippines now. And New York museums, galleries to reopen from August 24. In China, a restaurant apologizes for weighing customers. We have another news here. Pentagon to set up new unit to investigate UFOs. And Alibaba's Freshipo says will test all Shenzhen employees for COVID-19. And now Philippine security forces alert for reprisals after militants held. Then in Canada, the country says new waves of COVID-19 could swamp healthcare systems, send death toll soaring. Let's check on the details. This is a very interesting one for Thailand. In times of crisis, Bangkok is finding space to grow its own food on rooftops. In a neighboring province of the Thai capital, in one of the metropolis' hottest and most polluted industrial zones, is not an obvious place to start a farming enterprise. But above the dusty, busy streets in Samut Sakhon, a concrete space that before had done little except radiate heat is now a little oasis. A sprinkle gently sprays water across beds of leafy plants and herbs and flowers. It is peaceful up here. Importantly though, this rooftop garden has become a place of function and purpose for those who tend it. The building is home to the Migrant Worker Rights Network, MWRN, an organization that provides legal and social assistance to vulnerable overseas workers. When the COVID-19 pandemic struck, migrant workers were among those who lost their livelihoods and were unable to return to their home countries due to ongoing border restrictions. Suthasini Kulekai, MWRN's coordinator, soon saw a growing problem: these workers were going hungry. I noticed that people were starving because they had to cut their living expenses because they were furloughed and had lost their jobs. They had to do whatever it took to save money. They came to ask us for vegetable cuttings, she said. Instead of trying to find ways to donate food, she looked up. A friend of mine who's into organic farming suggested that we should grow more vegetables. I told my friend that there's no space. My friend said if you have a rooftop, it can be done, she recounted. A few months on, about 30 migrants, mostly workers from Myanmar and their families, care for the garden themselves in their free time, transferring seeds, cleaning and watering the transformed space, and the vegetables have become a daily food staple during uncertain times. Whoever comes can just grab them. This is what we do. We don't separate who helps or who doesn't help. If they come here, they can take the vegetables to eat, said Kosal, a member of the MWRN and now a keen gardener. Rooftop gardens like this are not designed to be relied upon for food, but they can play an important role in filling gaps during time of crisis. Indeed, the COVID-19 pandemic has sparked interest in urban farming over the past few months. In Thailand, looming concerns about food insecurity driven by climate change also means that urban farming is poised to be a crucial long-term resilience tool. Falling through the cracks, the Thai City Farm Project at the Sustainable Agriculture Foundation Thailand has been sharpening urban residents' farming skills for more than a decade. While with a focus on the economically disadvantaged, specifically slum communities, the project is aiming to build resilience among them. Communities like the one in Samut Sakhon are the beneficiaries of guidance about how to set up their urban farm operations. Others are provided with soil and seeds to kickstart their planting ambitions. Overall, Thai City Farm helps oversee more than 450 community projects, a number of which has accelerated quickly in recent times with 210 new projects being launched during the COVID-19 period. There are so many people who fell through the crack because they have no food of their own and never learn how to grow. When they are out of the job, they have no money to buy food. They have to wait for donations, said Varangkanang Nimhata, the head of the project. She says that the basic skills to grow food have largely disappeared from Bangkok's urban fabric. It is expected to be a growing problem, with the United Nations predicting that about 70% of the global population will live in cities by 2050. Nowadays, it's clear that urban people barely have any skills to produce food or truly understand the origin of their food producing areas, or farmers Baron Kanang said. Do we want people in the city to 100% rely on themselves? No, but we want to rely on agricultural work in urban areas as a tool to make people learn basic skills. Apart from that, we think that learning to become a producer will make people understand the true origin of the food and become a consumer who supports sustainable, organic, and natural agriculture, as well as agriculture that supports small farmers to be able to make a living. Agriculture that does not destroy the environment and our surroundings, she said. It is a mantra shared by one of Bangkok's pioneering urban farmers, Nakon Lempakuf Tatavon, the Veggie Prince. The Veggie Prince. He has been growing and promoting sustainable urban lifestyle for more than 12 years in his backyard today in the district of Lat Prao is bringing with greenery. We want people to relearn and reconnect with nature again, he said. A crisis is like a catalyst to awaken the people. The way to solve this problem is not hard. Everybody can do it. Exactly. And yes, there's big business control agricultural sector. Big business control agriculture sector. One of Thailand's leading voices on food security says there's a critical imbalance in the ways the country's food is produced. Powerful conglomerates control much of the country's agricultural sector, leaving farmers at the mercy of market prices and a centralized system. It means there are fewer choices for consumers and less understanding about the delicate systems that generate the food that millions consume. Witon Lien Kamrun, the founder of BioThai Foundation, says there is a prevailing myth that Thailand is the kitchen of the world where food will be forever plentiful. To the contrary, the country remains in the grip of a damaging drought, which has resulted in sharp declines in rice and corn production and a drop in agricultural economic growth. Additionally, around 6.5 million Thais suffer from malnutrition in Hungary, including 600,000 children, while further 5 million suffer from obesity, showing the clear inequalities that exist when it comes to food access and quality. Of course, there's a food security problem in Thailand, he said. The source of food is no longer like it was in the past. In the past, people could grow their own food. Now they have to buy from the market. And big companies have a bigger share in the market. We heavily rely on a few mass production food sources, not farmers. Food distributors and food producers are in the hand of big business chains. When this system of mass food production is integrated with food distribution, it causes climate change problems and pollution problems. The whole chain involves a lot of activities using a lot of energy, water, machines, packaging, production, trucks for transportation, and so on, he said. But BioThai is involved with promoting food safety and security, as well as promoting perennial vegetables that can be more sustainably grown and closing the links between farmer and consumer. With climate change impacts worsening, cities like Bangkok are increasingly vulnerable to disruption in food supply. As rural areas suffer, it is the cities that go hungry or face increased prices. In this regard, urban farming is a clear solution to help fill the gap, Witon said. Some of the benefits include reduced energy use, enhanced carbon sequestration from urban forests, the reuse of urban water, and reducing the urban heat island effect, which is the increase of mean day temperatures, largely due to buildings and pavements, a factor to be further aggravated by climate change. On the ground, on the roof. Let's proceed with this news. Places like Samut Sakhon and Rangsit, both near Sala regions of Bangkok, were once home to important agricultural land. Now these areas form part of Bangkok's sprawling urban shadow. The result is a lost connection to the soil and the history of the area, says landscape architect and founder of urban design firm Land Process, Kochakorn Vurakom. Over 50 years, and you can see this big patch of concrete creeping out over the wetlands and used to be a channel for the river and how we drain our water from the north to the ocean. We used the best place to grow agriculture in the world to build the worst city in the world, she said. From the beginning, we built a city in the wrong place, but we cannot return. So now it's about finding the right solution and changing the attitudes of the people. Kuchakorn has been a leading voice promoting functional green spaces in Bangkok's new developments and converted spaces. In Rangsit, at the campus for Thammasat University, Kuchakorn's designs have given birth to Asia's biggest rooftop garden. The 22,000 square meter space recreates a rice terrace, includes micro watersheds from its cascading roof, and has expansive areas for students to grow organic vegetables and herbs. It has aesthetics with more critically purpose. I think this building can create a solution to combine green space, food shortage problems, and build the next generation of sustainable citizens because this place is a university, she said. This can really relate people back to the ground, even though it's on the roof. Thinking about the land coverage, we cover the places that are supposed to be nature, supposed to be places to grow food. While she believes there is a disconnect at the moment between modern Bangkok residents in the land, which is rapidly being overtaken by urban fixtures, deep town people have an underlying desire to rediscover links to farming. We are actually growing from an agricultural culture. Farmers are our ancestors, so growing food and getting things as we walk from the trees is part of the culture and our landscape. So I feel that urban farming should be rooted in the new generation, she said. Beyond these purpose-built green zones like at Thammasat, we thought of Taiwan's unused space which can be precious in crowded cities like Bangkok to be unlocked for communities to farm. There are so many emptied lands, so the government should change the law to facilitate urban farming ideas so the poor people can grow their food, he said, giving the examples of district offices and temples as areas that could easily be converted for use, especially by poorer city residents. Varang Kanang of Thai City Farm added, I think it's been proven that if there's space, whether it's land or concrete or whatever it is, every place has the potential to produce food. People just need to start to do it. Yes, even in the Philippines, like the big cities, Manila and Cebu, there's a lot of condominiums, tall buildings, and resident vertical apartments. So the rooftops can be utilized as a green space, somewhere you can plant. And for condos, if you have a balcony area, that's where you can actually plant. And if you're lucky enough that your unit has a garden space included with a purchase, well, basically to have just to fill in the gaps, like what the article said, you can grow some vegetables in your balconies or in your garden spaces. Now let's check out this news. Returning Brits begin quarantine as second virus wave threatens in Europe. In London, British holidaymakers returning home from parts of Europe began having to quarantine on Saturday, August 15, under new restrictions as a second wave of virus infections threatened more disruption and economic chaos on the continent. The UK opted to remove France, the Netherlands, Malta, and several other countries from its list of places exempt from self-isolation rules, sparking a rush for plane, train, and ferry tickets by Britons desperate to get back before the 4 a.m. change. All travelers arriving from the three countries as well as Monaco and Caribbean island states, Turks and Caicos and Aruba after the deadline must quarantine for 14 days. French student Antoine, 23, cut short his holiday to rush back to Bristol in southwestern England where he is at university. I'm a waiter in a small cafe near college. I can't afford to spend 14 days in the house, he said at London's St. Pancras railway station after arriving on a Eurostar train. France is facing a resurgence of the disease that emerged in China late last year and has so far infected over 21 million people and killed more than 750,000 globally. French authorities have reported more than 2,500 new cases on each of the past 3 days, levels not seen since May. One British couple said they had spent nearly 1,000 euros or 1,300 US dollars to make it home via Eurostar from central France. I went to bed last night thinking it was all okay, woke up at 7 a.m. to find we had to get back here pretty sharpish, Stuart Montaigne told the PA news agency. Meanwhile, Germany added most of Spain, where cases have also surged in recent weeks, to its list of regions from where arrivals must show a negative COVID-19 test or quarantine for 2 weeks. Austria urged its citizens to return from popular Mediterranean destination Croatia before similar rules come into effect Monday, while Serbia introduced mandatory testing for travelers from 4 neighboring countries. And thousands of Albanians queued for miles in their cars at the Greek border before tougher entry requirements designed to break mounting infections began. The United States also said it was extending a ban on non-essential travel through border crossings with Canada and Mexico throughout most of September to slow the spread of the disease. Travel rush. Britain's new quarantine rules announced late Thursday prompted a frenzied 36-hour scramble to get home. Eurotunnel, which operates a drive-on train service for cars through the Channel Tunnel, was fully booked Friday, while some airfares from France to the UK were more than 6 times more expensive than normal. Fiona Nicholson, 47, a professor from the English City Portsmouth, on a holiday in southern France, told AFP from Nice Airport Friday that she had cut short her trip. I had planned to return on Monday, but I changed my flight to go back today so I don't have to go on quarantine. I'm sad I'm missing some holiday, but I'm happy to comply. French holidaymakers in Britain will face tough choices of their own, as Paris pledged to impose a reciprocal measure. The Netherlands said it would advise against all but essential travel to Britain, but will not introduce a quarantine of its own for arrivals. Meanwhile, just 10,000 of the usual 250,000 pilgrims will visit France's Lourdes Roman Catholic Shrine Saturday for the annual Assumption Mass, with mask wearing compulsory, according to organizer. Promising vaccines. A slew of data Friday revealed the scale of the economic impact of the virus and punishing lockdowns, with Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, and Netherlands, Finland, and Denmark all booking hefty hits to GDP in April to June. Denmark and Hungary both reported their worst slumps since the early 1990s, and Poland entered its first recession since the end of the communist era. Hopes to break the cycle of outbreaks and lockdowns decimating economies have turned to a vaccine, with Britain saying Friday it has secured access to another 90 million doses of two promising vaccines. Vietnam, meanwhile, said it was looking to buy a bulk order of Russia's Sputnik vaccine, although Western scientists have raised concerns about the speed of its development and suggested that researchers might be cutting corners. And Washington said it would distribute any vaccine proven to be effective to all Americans for free. Mexico announced it, and Argentina aimed to have a vaccine available for Latin America. Now the region with the worst virus toll in most cases, early next year under a production agreement with drug giant AstraZeneca. New NZ strain. Elsewhere, New Zealand is battling a second outbreak of infections and extended a lockdown of its largest city, Auckland, by at least 12 days, after officials detected a variant of the virus previously unseen in the country. The Pacific Island nation's initial response to the pandemic was hailed a success, but a run of 102 days with no reported community transmission ended on Tuesday, and a cluster of 30 virus cases was recorded in recent days. Meanwhile, South Korea tightened restrictions in Seoul and its surrounding areas Saturday, as the country reported the highest number of new daily infections since March. But in the US, which has more registered infections than any other country in the world, museums, art galleries, and other cultural institutions in New York will be allowed to reopen later this month, following a 5-month shutdown.